Fuckers in school telling me always in a barber shop.
Sockjig.
Think about this.
Sockjig.
About that. My boy a BD on fucking Lamron and them. They say don't be putting on no work. Shut the fuck up! Y'all know shit! All you motherfuckers talking about
Sockjig.
ain't no hitter.
Sockjig.
Ain't this.
Sockjig.
The fake. Shut the fuck up! Y'all don't live with that. Y'all know they got caught with a rat shit. Shooting at the police and shit. They've been on probation since I don't know when. Motherfuckers stop playing them like that. Them savages out there. If I catch another motherfucker talking sweet about
Sockjig,
I'm beating their ass. I'm not playing no more.
The Sockjig Sneaker Podcast. These bitches love Sockjig. Episode 2, the Sockjig Sneaker Podcast. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. You can follow me on Twitter at Sockjig. And you know what? Instead of worrying about like hashtags and trying to think of like ways to get people to follow, I spent most of my time like creating that intro. So I'm just doing what, like I said, I'm just doing what I feel like on this thing. So on feet today, is raining a lot in Vancouver. I had on the Livestock Adidas Ultra Tech GTX. Those are the all yellow joints. You know, they're not really heat, but they're Gore-Tex and they do the job. They work great in the rain here, and you really need them in Vancouver. For pickups, I had a few pickups this week. Kind of slow, but slow week is still 4 pickups. I did pick up the Yeezy Pepper 380. I know people are like, why? But I have a thing for bad shoes or ugly shoes, and they're all right. You know, these are just personals. I also picked up, we'll talk about the Yeezy Pepper a little bit later too, about that drop. I also picked up both of the Converse Cold Wall, the ERX 260 and the Chuck Taylor. Same, I just like a Cold Wall. I just wanted to check them out. I'll probably keep the ERX. The Chuck Taylors, it's okay. I got my size 12 and I probably need to go down to like 11.5 or so on those. And today I was able to pick up the JJJJound Reebok nylons that dropped at noon PST time. That drop I was basically chasing all morning. There's some Shopify drops this morning, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But this is the one I really wanted. At the top of every hour, I just kept refreshing. Because before, they've dropped at 8 a.m. PST, or they dropped at like 9 a.m. PST before. So I was trying at those times. So I thought maybe this time they'll drop at 10 or at 11. But it was actually at noon. I was lucky enough to get it. The question was pretty simple. But we'll talk about those a little bit later as well too. The agenda for today is I'll talk a little bit about the socks that I have dropping. I have a couple segments, my first ever segments. I wanted to talk about a couple of the recent drops, the Yeezy Pepper, the Fragment 3, and even the drops that happened today with the New Balance Bodega and even the JJJJound one. A couple news items from, these are sneaker Twitter news items, not actual sneaker news items. But first, I have some socks dropping soon. They'll probably drop next week. They're called Fjord Blue. You know what? They're actually gray. I'll let you in on a little secret, but I call them Fjord Blue because they're kind of a play on the hospital blue. And the original Calabasas hospital blue socks were actually called Glacier. And these are called Fjord Blue because fjords are formed by glaciers. That's, we'll save that for the geology podcast. They're dropping next week. I don't have a set time yet. I still have to take like product photos. But if you're interested in them, getting them early, tune in to the very end of this episode and I will tell you how you can get them early exclusively to podcast listeners. So stay tuned for the whole episode. All right, so for my first ever segment, I wanted to do a tweet of the week where a text-to-speech AI reads aloud a tweet of my choice. This tweet is by Zelensky212, and it'll be read aloud by this AI called Prashant. Take it away, Prashant.
Whichever one of you computer MFs writes a script for foot apps first, please DM me. Let's work. I got IDs, bodies, stock numbers alert. Please do not fuck this up.
That was actually an old tweet from like last November, but you can follow Zelensky at Zelensky 212. I think he does like Brick Chat or something, but who cares? The second segment ever for this podcast is called Sneaker Guy of the Week. In this segment, every week I'll pick out someone in the sneaker scene that you see, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. My sneaker guy of the week is the not gonna lie, it's growing on me guy. Everyone's seen this guy. Usually resale has changed his mind, or maybe some on feet photos that changed his mind, or even like got it in hand and said, you know what, quality's not that bad. But they always got to vocalize it. They always got to say, because they went back and they tried to change their mind, because they talk shit about it. Mostly they realize other people like it. They don't want to be on an island and say, hey, I don't like this anymore. So, not gonna lie, it's growing on me. You are the sneaker guy of the week. I should probably pick a more inclusive term, but sneaker guy of the week just sounds better. Think of guy as, mankind. Think of him as like the Da Vinci drawing guy. So for some of the recent drops that have happened this week, I wanted to first talk about the Yeezy Pepper 380. As you probably noticed, it's sitting everywhere. Yeezy supply sold out, but like I said on Twitter, I wouldn't be shocked if they just pulled stock and saved it for Yeezy days or app exclusive. The one thing I wanted to mention here is Adidas has taken back pairs from stores so that it doesn't appear like they are sitting in stores, because sitting Yeezys is actually, not good for the brand. Previously with Mauves and some of the early 700s that, where the stock was super high and people weren't up on them, like Mauves and Analogs, the Mauves and Analogs have probably turned around now and there is more interest in them now and they probably do resell a bit. But back then, stores had hundreds and hundreds of them and probably sold half. I think the same thing basically happened with Mist. Mist actually dropped at like the height of quarantine time. I actually heard from someone who works at a store that, they only sold through like 55% of their Mist and Adidas took them all back. So what you'll probably see is these Yeezy Peppers will probably start disappearing from stores pretty soon if they haven't already. So if you want a pair, pick up a pair. I don't think there's any long-term value in the 380s. They're more probably just personals. There was some long-term value holding these Analogs and some of these other 700s, especially if you got them under retail. And these two will probably eventually show up on GOAT. Retailers or even Adidas might get rid of them to someone who who is a pre-authorized seller on, say, GOAT. This is what happened with all these Analogs when tons and tons of Analogs appeared on GOAT under retail. And if you bought them, they immediately went to your GOAT storage. That wasn't just one guy with 50 pairs. That was someone who made arrangements with GOAT. And the same thing will probably happen here. The next drop I wanted to talk about is the Jordan 3 Fragment and its drop in price. Before the drop, I had tweeted out that either pretend the Fragment 3s don't exist or get ready to pay $1,200 USD. And that came from basically stock that I was seeing at stores. Stock was pretty low. In Canada itself, there's only like 3 places that had them: Capsule, Livestock, and the Jordan store in Toronto. And those places are all raffles. And also, Soul Heat on Feet replied to my tweet in saying that they're going to crash so hard. And he's a person whose opinion I respect. So that made me, pause and look into what's happening, that, maybe there's more stock than I really thought. So why did the Fragment 3s brick so hard? Well, they didn't brick that hard. They're still like 500, 550 USD. Mostly the stock was higher than most people probably thought. Some people were, like myself, thought they would stay at $1,000. And that's because I thought, there's so few of them, because it is a Fragment. It's a special shoe. Keep it special. Do not drop that many. But, sometimes we see this where Nike will twist it for the second time, where they drop a release where the first drop is limited and the second one has higher stock. That's a normal pattern. That's what I missed here. Whereas if sneakers had, only a few thousand and everyone took the L, prices would stay high, even though objectively the shoe isn't, super fire or anything. It's mostly, like people have said, it's mostly just a Cyber Monday 3 flip. One of my friend's theory is that if stock was more evenly distributed, resellers could keep the price higher. And that's actually a pretty good take. Resellers can often play a big role in keeping prices high, but they can also do the opposite, where if there's not enough buyers, they can start crashing prices, as we've seen in, like the satin Jordan 1. I have not seen this shoe in hand, but it does look pretty nice in hand from what I've heard. But what can happen is when the price gets to a certain point, say like it is now $400, $500 USD, it's low enough where people are more likely to wear it. Whereas if a shoe stays at $1,000, it's a way bigger decision to wear it. So the more people who actually wear it, then there's fewer DS pairs, and then the price will go up. That I could see happening, but it will still probably take a while to get to $1,000 just because there's so many. And finally, I wanted to talk about the Shopify drops that happened on Friday here. The first one was the New Balance Bodega 997S, I think it is, collab. And that was like the third of their trilogy. And there, Shopify basically crashed, which I hadn't seen in a long time. I think I tweeted this morning that the last time I remember that it crashed was the black static 350 back when on Yeezy Supply. And Bodega is a site that I haven't seen use the checkpoint anti-bot protection feature very much. They maybe used it a couple times only, so it's something that they have but they don't really use. I'm not sure exactly what the point was here. There's probably two errors here. I think one was basically just how the site is designed, that it's a very heavy theme, that there's probably some theme issues there when adding to cart. And then the other issue I saw was I woke up late. I didn't even try for this one. It's a 7 a.m. drop here. There's only so many 7 a.m. drops I can get up for. And this is not really a shoe I wanted to wear. So, even if there is sometimes if there is resell there, I don't always get up for these. I'm only more motivated for ones I'd actually want to get and wear myself. And so the second issue, so when I did get up at like 7:10 a.m. and tried, I said, oh, maybe there's errors. Maybe I could still see what happens here. Half awake on my phone, and I didn't even see a size 12. I saw later in the monitors that they didn't even load anything above a size 11 and a half or 12. So I just picked whatever size 11 or whatever the next biggest size was, and I got into the queue. Sat in the queue for a minute or two, and the first error that I see is, please enable cookies to continue. And I think this is an issue just that comes up sometimes on drops I've seen before too, where you get this error, or where Shopify thinks you're a bot. You get this 429 status code error, or you get a double queue. And a tip for everyone here to actually prevent this is to actually clear your cookies before it drops, or use an incognito window. I have a extension called Clear Cookie and Reload. Usually before a drop, I click that and we'll log in then, and that usually prevents the double queues and these types of 429 errors. But I know those errors can also happen if you're using VPNs and things like that. So turn off all those VPNs. And the thing about Bodega is they've never really seemed like a boutique that's shown that they've really cared. I've had lots of stuff canceled there that I bought manually, paid with PayPal, for example. And if it sells out, obviously no one wants a drop like this, but if it sells out, it sells out. What are they going to do? They're not going to redo the drop all over again, cancel everyone's pairs. And like I mentioned in the last episode, often if you do cancel pairs, they are charged a restock, like a 3% credit card fee if they are capturing the payment automatically. And often what sucks about exclusive drops that have issues is that it's an exclusive drops and they're usually the only ones that gets it. But it looks like NewBalance.com is going to be releasing these as well. I'm not sure if they're going to stores, maybe, but if you're really after these, you can get them. And one of the things I'm going to say that is you don't always need to complete the trilogy. If you have the other two, if you don't really need to complete the set. if you have three, you often only go back to one anyways, or sometimes the other one. I have three of the acronym Prestos from the first set, and I only ever wear the Volt one. The olive one I've had is still dead stock, but I do like that one. And then the other one, the bamboo one, I never wore. And to break this kind of this desire to complete the set, I sold that bamboo one. So after that was the Eric Emanuel shorts drop. That was like the last shorts drop of the season for Eric. And there, what I tried for this because the New York Skyline print shorts dropped. And the question, Eric Emanuel site always has a question. And the question was, what is the greatest city in the world? And it said brackets New York. And if you tried New York, it actually didn't let you cart. So there was an issue there where I tried NYC, I tried something else, and then eventually I remembered previously an answer was Syracuse as an answer to where Eric is from or born, and I tried that and it went through. And then what I saw afterwards was they probably had some sort of error with the question, and so then they just removed it. So even though it worked, Syracuse worked for me, mostly what happened is they probably just disabled the question and anything would have worked at that point. So I was able to get those. I'm excited for those. Which leads to the last drop, which was the JJJJound Reebok nylon. And for anyone who's tried for JJJJound before, the number one tip is to turn on notifications for his Instagram if you don't have a monitor. But even if you do have a monitor, it's usually a good backup because he does post right away when it does drop. And like I said earlier, previously they've dropped at 8 a.m. PST or 9 a.m. PST. And this time, so that's all I was doing this time, was just checking at the top of the hour. So, this is one of those ones where you waste your day because there's no announced time. And so at noon when I checked, it was there. The question was, is a tomato a vegetable or a fruit? I was able to get through pretty quickly. I didn't see some sizes. I think they did load all the sizes, but I think the way that the theme is laid out is if a size sells out, it's in gray out, it just removes that size. So I'm pretty sure they still probably had a full size run. I was able to get a 12 and went through pretty quickly. And what's notable is the question worked, the queue worked. I didn't get any errors. Like I said earlier, I did click the clear cookie and reload thing, but JJJJound doesn't have login or anything like that. So, and the only thing I had done was just basically refresh it once every hour. But before, at the top of the hour, I was clearing cookies and making sure I had like a fresh session. So that, like I said earlier, that's my tip for everyone out there who's been getting double queues. For news, I really only want to talk about a couple things. The first one is that apparently the bot called SoleAIO had a bypass for Checkpoint where they could either pre-solve or bypass. I'm not sure if it exactly is a bypass. And, get in front of everyone else and take all the stocks. And apparently they used this on the Michigan Dunks on Kith. And this was like one of those ones where it's like, so if you had a bypass, why are you saving it for something that, only sells for a couple $100 and, stock isn't even high, especially when like next week there's this huge carbon Yeezy release. So I was scratching my head on that. Other bots that when they've had bypasses, Balco, I think, used it on sale fours on Kith, for example, or Cyber had Fast 2 bypass, and I can't remember which drop it was, but those guys know what they're doing and usually save it for something good. In this bot world, it's like when you do have these bypasses, it's like I think a lot of them are afraid that other people are going to steal it or going to figure it out before, so you got to use it. And there's competition among them. There's always, you want to show that you're the best. You want your resale price of your bot to go higher. So some of these bot flipping groups can make their money on it. Yeah, it was just a head scratcher. I don't know what was going on there. The other head scratcher is ShoePalace finally switched from their dreaded system that they had with the timer and everything to Shopify. And this is one of those ones where everyone knew it was going to happen eventually. And so, in case you don't know, ShoePalace had their own I don't know if it's proprietary or off the shelf or something, but they had their system for a long time, and there was no real bots for it. It was still just a big pain. Eventually, there was a bot called Palace Bot that kind of figured it out and had a bypass and was able to hammer the processing and get a whole bunch of orders through. And it was basically working for a long time. And ShoePalace was basically getting bombarded, and they really had no choice but to start shipping. If you're ShoePalace fulfillment and you get 100 orders to one address, and you're just the guy in the warehouse, you're not gonna pick up a phone and start calling people and ask them to rewrite a system. You're gonna grab those 100 shoes and put them in a couple boxes. And this worked out great for the people who figured out how to bot this because they were shipping everything. Eventually, ShoePalace did add a couple measures, but even those measures weren't that much. One of the funnier ones was they increased shipping to $26. So it's like, man, let's tax these guys. Let's just make some money from them. But then what happened was a bunch of other bots figured it out and started adding their own modules. Cyber did, Phantom did. And what was interesting was the original one, Palace Bot, was still mostly working from what I saw and heard. But what's interesting here is it's like, did Clout kill this run that they had? Is the people who had a bypass, if they just kept it quiet, didn't create a bot, didn't flex it, could they have just kept buying everything and not told anyone, not made the money from the bot, but still made the money from buying all these Jordans? And ShoePalace owns Shop Nice Kicks as well too, which runs Shopify and has, I think, Shopify Plus, which has the anti-bot measures. And actually, this the sample ShoePalace site, the sample Shopify ShoePalace site that was spread around as like a beta site, has actually been there for a long time, probably for like a year. So this is probably something, I bet you every store has at least tried out Shopify, so they have some sort of beta version of it up. But my guess is, even if someone didn't chase the clout and didn't post all these things online, that they would have eventually moved to Shopify anyways, just because why have two systems? And even if someone is silently taking all stocks, the guys in the warehouse still realize that there's hundreds and hundreds of pairs going to only a couple addresses, even if no one is talking about it on Twitter. So I actually think they probably did all right. They probably did the right move, and they got their clout. And they were criticized for being very loud about it, and burning a loop here. But they made out all right, I think. And some of the people accusing them of doing that have basically been doing the same thing themselves. They also have the same kind of module in their bot. Some of these guys have a cozy relationship with the Shopify CTO as well too. But I get it. There's going to be this mindset that you should cook in silence, that you shouldn't chase clout. And if that's your personality, then that's how you're going to feel. But there's going to be the opposite too, that this newer, younger generation that is coming through, they are going to want to chase clout. And what I've seen is, and I'll talk about this probably in a future episode, is you can make money if you do chase clout and you do have a name on it. Because if you look around and look at lots of these guys, a lot of them have their own friends and family group. A lot of them are charging for that, and they wouldn't be if they didn't have some clout. So whoever these guys are with these Palace bots have got their name out there. I don't know if they're good enough to build another bot. I hope they are. Good luck. Keep coding. You'll figure it out. But do something with that clout. Make your money off of that instead. So that wraps up my second episode. So thank you everyone for tuning in. If you didn't understand some of the stuff I talked about, that's fine. It is a little inside baseball at times. You can still follow me on Twitter for jokes. You can even like ask me there for explanations. I'll respond. But as a special thank you to the people who did listen to this early, I wanted to say if you want to get your hands on the Fjord Blue Sockjig socks, you can go to shop.sockjig.com right now, enter the password Glacier, if you know how to spell Glacier, and you can get them for the friends and family price of $15 instead of the usual $20. So that's $15 US plus $5 shipping or $7.50 shipping to Canada. That's shop.sockjig.com, password Glacier. I know this sounds like an infomercial, but you know, basically that's the great thing about this is I can do whatever I want. So go to the site. If they're not there, if they sold out, you know, there'll still be a regular drop. I just wanted to do a special thing just for podcast listeners. Thanks for tuning in. That's episode 2. We'll see you in episode 3 soon. Grab some cranberry juice. Enjoy the Dreams outro. See ya.